I said it as a joke at first. If you want to date me seriously, you have to fill out an application. We both laughed it off, just some silly banter. But later that night, something inside me decided to actually do it. I sat down and typed out 10 questions. They weren't anything crazy, just the kind of things that run through your head in a new relationship. Questions like, where do you see this going? And what does loyalty really mean to you? And of course, the big one, are you talking to anyone else? I printed it out, feeling a little bit bold, a little bit mischievous. The next day, I handed it to him. The look on his face was a mix of confusion and surprise, but he didn't argue. He just took it and started filling it out right there. At first, I thought it was just this cute, trendy thing to do. You see stuff like this all over TikTok, right? It felt like modern dating humor, a way to be upfront without being too serious. But then he handed it back to me. And suddenly, it wasn't funny anymore. I started reading his answers. The first few were pretty standard. He talked about his future goals, the importance of communication, how he defines effort. It was all good stuff, exactly what you'd want to hear. But then I got to question 6. Are you talking to anyone else? I let out a little laugh, thinking it was a clever response. But then I read the next line. But I don't know if you're only talking to me. My stomach just dropped. It was like a little jab, but one that hit a nerve I didn't even know was exposed. I moved on to question 7, hoping to shake off that feeling. The question was, what makes you different from other girls? I was expecting something sweet, maybe even a little cliché. You're special, or you're not like anyone I've ever met. He wrote 2 simple words, nothing yet. I stared at that sentence for what felt like 5 minutes. Nothing yet. It wasn't an insult, but it wasn't a compliment either. It was just a fact, and it stung. I felt offended, almost rejected. So I looked up from the paper and asked him, what is that supposed to mean? Nothing yet? I expected him to get defensive, to backpedal, to explain it away, but he didn't. He stayed perfectly calm, looked me straight in the eye, and laid it all out. He said, you test me like I'm applying for a job. He continued, you check my phone when you think I'm not looking. You ask these trick questions, trying to catch me in a lie. You're constantly comparing me to other guys, to your exes, to guys your friends are dating. And then he asked the one question I had no answer for. How am I supposed to feel special when you treat me like I am under investigation? That hurt more than I ever expected. It wasn't the words themselves, but the way he said them. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't angry or defensive. He just sounded tired, exhausted from trying to prove himself. It was a kind of honesty that you can't argue with because you know it's the truth. My eyes drifted down to the last question on the page, number 10. Why should I choose you? I'd imagined he'd write a whole paragraph, a heartfelt plea, a list of all his best qualities. He wrote one single devastating sentence. You shouldn't have to convince yourself. And that's when it all came crashing down. That's when it hit me. Application, this whole charade. It wasn't about testing him. It was about testing my own insecurity. I was so afraid of getting hurt, so afraid of being played that I was trying to find some kind of guarantee. I wanted reassurance on paper. I wanted control. I wanted a signed contract that said he would never hurt me. But relationships don't work like that. They're not business deals. They work on trust. And you can't build trust while you're holding an interrogation. He looked at me and his eyes were so clear, so calm. He said, if you need paperwork to feel safe with me, then maybe you're not ready to be with me. There was no anger in his voice, no drama. He just sounded done. And that scared me more than anything. Because for the first time in our entire time together, he wasn't trying to impress me. He wasn't trying to win me. He was protecting himself. From me? I felt this lump in my throat and I asked him one last question, my voice barely a whisper. If I hadn't made this application, would you still be here? He nodded. Yes, he said. But I don't know how long I'd stay feeling evaluated. That word just hung in the air between us. Evaluated. Evaluated. Like he was on probation. Like he was a candidate in a long line of applicants, easily replaceable if he didn't meet the criteria. And I realized that was the real problem. This whole modern dating scene, with its endless swiping and ghosting, it makes everyone feel replaceable. So what do? We build walls, we create tests. We measure effort with a scorecard. We demand proof of investment before we're willing to give any of our own. We forget that for someone to feel safe enough to be vulnerable with us, we have to offer them safety first. It's a two-way street. In that moment, sitting across from him with that stupid piece of paper in my hand, I saw my own fear reflected in his exhaustion. I wasn't being strong, I was being scared. Without another word, I took the application and tore it in half. It wasn't a big, dramatic gesture. I just did it quietly, letting the two pieces fall onto the table. And I looked at him and said, I don't want an application. I want something real. He didn't break into a huge smile or pull me into a hug. He just nodded slowly, a silent understanding passing between us. Because sometimes the biggest red flag in a relationship isn't cheating or lying. Sometimes it's control that's disguised as high standards. It's insecurity that's pretending to be strength. So let me ask you something. Is all this testing and vetting in modern dating a smart way to protect your heart? Or is it just fear pretending to be power? I really want to know what you think, so drop your opinion in the comments below. And if you like real relationship stories that dig into the uncomfortable truths, make sure you subscribe. Because modern love is anything but simple, and we're here to talk about all of it. Thanks for watching.